I don't know how many people in the Jewish community realize how special this is. In the United States, there are very few communities that have this quality theater, but specifically to have a Jewish theater express the stories of our people in all the dimensions that allows us to think about our identity in a meaningful way is something that no one should take for granted.
I have a very vivid memory of nursing my son and rocking in the rocking chair, thinking about how will he be brought up knowing about his Jewish heritage. And I also, at that time period, was working part-time at a law firm. And I remember a woman saying to me, I've never met a Jew before. Those pieces began the seedling for the theater. For Jews to become a little bit more engaged with their Jewishness and for non-Jews to gain a better understanding. And people could see their commonalities.
I was there for the very first one. Two friends of mine had seen the show and told me to go. So that was a reason just to support the community. It was Jewish theater. I mean, there wasn't any Jewish themed theater here.
I had never produced a show. I had never had experience in production work. I had no business background. I didn't think too much about what it would be like starting a theater. I just did it. And people came.
One of the things that I love about this space is when we're doing a show for an audience. It's not really for us. We're communicating really directly and fairly intimately with a group of people that are gathered together.
You feel like you're almost hugging the audience. They're almost a member of the cast in a way, because you have to play off of what their reactions are.
We can present plays that feed the curiosity and the intellect of our audience. The reason we get to do that is because the audience has told us what they want to see. And then, just as in any kind of marriage, when you get to know each other well enough, you can sort of push at the edges and challenge each other to look at things in a new way or look at new things.
If father hadn't been a Jew, his life wouldn't have been held in the balance.
The type of work we do draws in a certain kind of artist. Artists have told me that they like the stories we tell, that they're important stories, they're meaningful stories to the community and to them as individuals.
I've told Jewish stories for the majority of my career, but nothing has been as centrally Jewish as Survivors. So, doing a show where you sat down with these 10 survivors and saw their individualized stories was spectacular to show to a high school audience who would never have been able to see that before. And then coming to this theater and having the audience who knew it meant a lot to them to see stories of people maybe they've known and people I've known put on stage.
I want to do work that is thought-provoking, conversation-sparking, emotional or deep in that way. The conversations that I was having with these audience members, opening up to me, crying to me, telling me that I had this family member that went through that, and to see you guys tell that story was so meaningful to me.
It's bringing my identity into this space as a Jewish person, and I feel it toes a line to the audience to say, hey, come on in with me.
Take Torch Song, for example. Like, I'm a gay guy, so of course Torch Song is so important to my identity, but none of us are one thing. So by doing Torch Song here, it reminds me to think like, oh, yeah, there's also a Jewish lens to this, that Harvey Fierstein is Jewish. So that's a great example of how this theater opens the doors for everyone to come in and gives us a chance to broaden the human experience and deepen our understanding of what it's like to live in the world and be a part of a community.
Life is full of pain, but it can become sufferable and bearable when we have meaning. part of it is not just Jewish, this is human, is just finding that way to bring some kind of language and narrative to your life.
One of the strong things about this theater is that so many of the shows are memorable and they're thought-provoking, and I'll wake up the next morning still thinking about them. In the first act of last night's show, I thought, I can't really relate to this. Somehow, just by watching the characters, I became much more involved with their emotions. So at the end, I was crying with them because they did such a fantastic job.
I take such joy in sitting in the theater and watching the artists give so much and care so deeply about the work. Over time, I've also found it important to provide opportunities that nurture artists, taking recent graduates from college or even high school students to help advance their career, or artists that have been working professionals to give them the opportunity to direct, and bringing new work to the stage, because then it enlarges the genre and what's available to other theaters.
Polarization is as great a crisis for humanity as is the climate crisis. I've heard this said that this is something that will literally destroy our world. Anytime you're spending long-form time witnessing people and stories, you're opening your heart, and that is good. And we need more of this in our world. So Six Points Theater addressing this, Tikkun Olam, fixing the world through breaking down the barriers amongst us and seeing our common humanity. And let me suggest too, it's not just Tikkun Olam, it's Tikkun Nefesh, which is repair of the soul. So it's repairing the world, but also repairing our souls and our lives, Tikkun Atzmi, and those are parallel and connected and so important.